Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're back on the Z-Force SX60, the Cub Cadet zero turn. This has a steering wheel, so front wheel steer, so I can stay on the side hills. A 60-inch deck, so it's going to get the job done. It's got a bagger. I bought it used. It was a smoker, and I knew that when I bought it, and I said, well, I'll take on the project. These sell for, you know, a lot. I couldn't find the exact price on a new one. A 54-inch, I think, was $6,000 something. So the amount of money I have in it, I could afford to buy a new engine and still be under, you know, even half of what a new one would be. So I'm kind of excited. This thing has about 432 hours. The blades look new. They're nice shape. The bearings feel good. The belts are good. The battery's almost new. Air filter's new. They changed the oil on it, and it still smokes. So I'm not sure what they used, but we took the heads off, and we cleaned all them up. We checked the valves. Everything looked pretty good, but I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and get a rebuild kit. We'll take it down. I'll check the ring end gap and see if maybe the rings are just plain worn. And we did have some blow-by. You always get it in a dipstick, but it had some blow-by. We tried to do a leak down test. I'm not sure we did it properly, but it had some leakage. I think you're allowed 5%. It sounded pretty good on this. And so the amount of smoke is coming out of it. We're going to go ahead and do it. It's worth it. So I'm going to get rings. I might even get pistons. I might wait on the ordering until we get it apart, but we can check them if the pistons are scratched or anything. We'll just get them because they come in a kit also. So you can buy the kit with gaskets and seals. So you can buy it with rings. You can buy it with rings and pistons and connecting rods, a whole deal. So I won't do that until we get it tore down. So the first thing we're going to do is we got to take the belts and the clutch, the electric PTO clutch, and it's kind of greasy under here. And so we'll clean this up at the end, I guess, but there's 4 bolts or 4 nuts under here, bolts I believe we're going to take out, and I think just a wiring harness up on top, and we'll pull this whole engine out and get it on the bench. All right, up top I got the wire harness disconnected, battery disconnected, wire harness disconnected, fuel lines, all that stuff's out of the way. And then down here we got to deal with this. Looks like, if it's metric, is it? Probably. We'll have to deal with that. Take this bolt off. 1, 2, 3, 4 engine bolts. We've got the deck drive belt, big boy here. Up above is a pretty big one. It's the drive belt. And probably keyed. So we'll have to pull the clutch off, and we got to be careful with the wire harness over there. I don't know how much room there is if I have to support it, let it hang here, I'd tie it to something. And that's it. I'll get some, maybe the impact will be quicker, and then maybe a screwdriver, and I'll roll this to get the belt off. Clutch came off easy. 1 bolt, drop it down, and then disconnect this wire harness right here. Pretty simple. Now this pulley, it's a drive pulley, has to come down, and it's got a key. And what they should have done is a set screw. So I think it's probably tapered. So we can probably wait on that if I can get the belt off, because the opening to bring the engine up out is large enough that I could probably do a puller at that point, you know, get it out where I can work on it. So I'm going to pull off these bolts now, which look around 9/16 or 14 mil. And then probably that's loose enough I can just wiggle the engine and pull it out without taking the belt. So we're going to pull this up out of here. I'm going to have Dawson help me lift it just to make sure. I think it's around 90 pounds. And we're going to try to set it up here on the table without leaking oil all over. All right, we got the engine sitting up here on the table. The top end definitely looks cleaner than the bottom end. Pretty dirty down here. But that's cranking under there with the belt, dust and grass and everything else. These cylinder walls, you know, there's no real cross hatching, but there's no scratching on them. So we're going to continue to move along on this. But we got to get this pulley off. And so I'm going to try to get a puller, see if we can pull that off. Then we're going to take the bottom case. So we're going to flip it upside down. All the oil's going to run up top, make a mess on my table. And we've got the bolt left in the top of the crankshaft. So maybe I could drill a hole in the table and it might balance like that. Well, this is keyed. It's pretty clean, but I'm going to try to use my puller. I think I got them out in storage, but I've got a big 2. I don't have a 3-jaw in here. I'm going to see if the little impact to pull that off. If I got to do a lot of pressure, I'll go hunt for a different one. I'm going to use this little Ryobi 3/8, see if it works. And these we only put on by hand. Better tighten that up a little bit, but it won't go nowhere for now, I don't think. That works slicker than crap. So, nice. That didn't hurt the threads or anything. So, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the oil drain, and then I'm going to take probably the starter, all that stuff off this side. I think there's a voltage regulator, stuff like that. We've got a seal in here. We're going to be putting a new one in. It's got a governor seal here that on old Terrell Fixes All said this is what he does, throw a little RTV on it. And I did that, but I shouldn't have. I'm going to clean that back off because we'll pop that off, put a seal in that. And then I put the goop up on the reed valve cover. I'll be tearing that all apart. So we'll be putting some of this stuff right in the parts washer and clean it right up. Okay, what I'm going to do is clean up all my mess here, organize, get my boxes ready for my parts, give me room to lay these parts out and get the pressure washer ready. Well, it's the next morning and I want to see if I can split this case. Dawson did a pretty good job cleaning this. He couldn't reach down in there. That's good enough for me. I'm gonna pop the case apart. I already took the drain off, made a mess on an old shirt here just to get it cleaned up. And I want to split this case. We got to pull it up off the seal. A little bit of marking on here where the pulley was, but I think we can sand that up. 12 millimeter. I don't know if it matters what order. I don't know if this thing would have power. But I'm taking and labeling all the bolts. And when I pull them out here, make sure they're all the same length. They look at, they're all the same height on the case, right? Yeah. Because the head bolts are different. And then I want to see how nice this comes off, and then I want to see if there's any, you know, destruction in here. And I should grab a rubber hammer, but I got to tap that or pry that off in there. And then I'm going to grab my baggies again, and I'm going to label it because I got so many things going on. I don't know when I'm going to get back to this. I'm going to do it when I can. Got some other stuff to do today. We'll just label this bottom case bolts, and then I think this is a good way to go. You're not putting the wrong bolt in or whatever, and you know what we do is get busy. So this might be a month before I get back to it, but we'll see. Hopefully not, because I got some projects to do. If you want to follow along with the channel, I'm going to try to do probably my brother's brakes. We did another project with him a little while back. He's going to do brakes. He's unfamiliar with it on that car, so I might give him a hand with that. He can bring it over, and then I want to do my mom's Subaru again. We're back in for more work on that. We're going to do an exhaust system. It's a 2013 with 70,000 on it, and you know, it sits more than driven, and it just rusts. It looks like I can just go right up straight with this. We got a little debris around the seal, but he did pretty good cleaning this. So I always say the more he does, the less I gotta do, the happier I'm gonna be, you know, with any helper, the more they do. Let's see if this will split. Hear it get hollow, sounds good. Get on a spot where I'm not gonna hurt anything. I've had this hammer for years. If you've been to the national parks and the state parks and things, I think more like the state parks, there was a company that made those fire screens and the barbecue grills that are set up in the old parks, called Bennett, Ireland, and they're out of business now. It's actually the car museum, the classic car museum here in town, and my stepfather worked there, and he got a bunch of these hammers, and I think when they closed shop, he took some of the tools home. I think they split up everything, and we had these for years. I would say I've had that for 40 some years. I don't know, a long time. I don't want to get crazy, but I think I'm gonna get a little pry bar or something. See where I can get it prying without damage. There's not a lot of room here. Now there we go, that side's loose. Probably just got the RTV. There doesn't look like there's any gasket. Just gotta get in a safe spot is all. There's that one. And you see the crankshaft staying with it. So let's see here. That is the bottom, because that's our drain. The reed valve's on the top edge. I wonder if I have to pull the seal out first or just get rougher on it. I'm also doing a load of wash. The buzzer just went off. I'm going to run in and do that. Alright, I just threw that in the dryer. So now, where were we? We were just lifting this up, right? Is it going to give? That's moving. So, looks like, just lift it straight up. Should have cleaned off the table better. I want to set it somewhere. It's going to make an oil bath. So, see if I can find a couple old rags or something, or cardboard. Here's a piece of cardboard, so good enough. We're going to put this in a parts washer anyway. Right straight up and off. Nice. Well, right away I don't see any parts floating around, do I? So, oil pump. There's a lot of sludge in here. That's why I decided to take the cylinder heads off. I mean, it ran so good, but when I saw them plugs, I thought the cylinders are the same way. It looks good, it's just sludgy. I wonder, you know, you don't get the full story when you buy something. You know that, right? You're not that gullible. That people don't tell you all the truth. I wonder, you know, he said he bought it used, but did he? Because that equipment in his shop was so nice, just like this machine. I wonder if he bought it brand new and just never changed the oil, just run the crap out of it, you know? And then possibly the fuel pump went, and that's how your oil turns dark, or you're getting compression into the crankcase. And there's a little rust on this I mentioned. That's where the pulley goes. This side of the crank looks good. Let me turn this a little bit. Timing marks line right up. And what I need to do next, not sure I want to pull the whole crank out of here or not. I want to see the condition of the crank, and we're going to do that because we're taking the connecting rods off. They look like they are about a 10 mil. And what I was wondering is it a broken skirt or something that fell off in the bottom here, you know? Is there some issue? And it looks pretty good. It's just propped on 2x4s here, so should be able to turn without any issues. Bring these pistons around. They look nice and clean. Okay, well, it probably wouldn't hurt to wash the crank if I got it out, because I want to put all new seals in anyway. And I'd like to see the tappets and the compression release and the governor set up and all that goodies. So let's see, I'll get a 10 mil and I'll take the connecting rods nuts off, and then I'll push the piston up out. We'll inspect piston 1 and 2 here. Get some tools out. And get down in here a little closer. Here's part number. There's your timing marks. Just other than sludge, there's no metal. The bottom of the piston looks pretty good on that one. Pretty good on this one. No noise. What I'm going to do is, let's see here, 12. There's a 10 millimeter. I want to take them off. I want to see the condition of the crankshaft, the connecting rod, and I'm pretty sure they're not bent or anything like that, because the piston comes all the way to the top flush on both cylinders, and they ran so good. So I'll do that. I don't know if I can film much of that, but there's your connecting rods. I want to get everything out and take a look at it. I'm going to push the piston out. I'm going to try not to move the location of the rings. Push it out straight. Don't touch them. See if they line up. See if they're thirds all the way around, or if they line up, or a broken ring, broken land, something. I would think if you line them up, you'd be top dead center. I guess not. That's up right there. Timing mark here and there. That timing's on. That one's to the top, and that one's not. So, timing marks are lining up right there. I don't know what to say. I don't know. But anyways, let's get these connecting rods out. Get it in a good position to fit on there. I broke them free already. They weren't torqued very much. I just use a hand ratchet. And these are bolts, not nuts. The threads are in the connecting rod. Comes the cap. I'm not sure if they're marked, right? We're not sure if they're marked. They should be. So we better do it, just in case. Use this little Sharpie white. Put a dot, something we can see, just in case. They sell the engine rebuild kits where you can get, you know, crank and rods and the whole deal, but I don't know if we need to get into that. Here's what's important. I'm going to use an old sock. Do you care? And we got a little bit of wear on that. Can I feel it? Sort of. Here's my mark. And then I'll just put a cylinder, get my orientation here. That's the top. Put my cylinder 2. And then I'll go ahead and throw a 2, which is going to be there anyway. And then what we'll do is I'll turn the crank a little bit so I get my hand in there like this. I'll push this out. There's not any ridge there, so it should pop right out. But I don't want to turn the rings, so I want to get them out in good condition here without touching them. Can I get that out of there? There it is. So, a lot of oil, which is good, right? So our rod bearing, it's got a little wear on it. Crank looks, or the connecting rod looks good. And there's a little scratch there. Can I feel it? Not really. And like I said, I don't want to turn the rings. I want to see where they are. See if there's anything wrong with them. So, find the end of it. A little mark on the piston there. Here's one, there's one. They're pretty close lined up. That's not very good. And the bottom oil ring is there. The top of the bottom oil ring is over there, so that's good. And then there's a part number. Arrow pointing up. I just drew a 2 on it just in case. Wrist pin, really smooth. Piston's really clean. You're going to get some wear on that, but when the rings wear down, I think these tend to do this at the top of the stroke a little bit, maybe at the bottom too. But the lands don't look broke. Ring, they're not seized. There's a lot of oil on them, they shouldn't be. So the only smoking gun is one ring end there, one ring end there. I thought they should be 180, or that's what I would do, but see what the book says. And then, like I said, I didn't want to touch them. We'll set this aside. We'll go on to number 2, or it's actually cylinder 1, but the second one. Maybe I can fit in there. Not quite. And these won't matter where they go. So let me label this one too. Before I go any farther. Probably doesn't matter because it only goes one way, so I'm going to put a 1 and then obviously that. And then let's see what we got. See the sludge when your oil gets dirty like that. I don't know. I had a Kawasaki filter on it. The first thing I did is change filters just to make sure it's filtering. But what if he drove it or rode it, never changed the oil, just kept adding if it got down? I don't know. This has a big taper running that way. Big taper towards the front. And then This one, can't feel anything, but you can see a little mark on it. Probably going to get that. We'll push this one up out. Get my hand in there. See where our rings are. Now, the one that was fouled, the spark plug that was fouled the most was number 2. And wrist pins, nice. The oil ring on cylinder 1. The bottom one's there. Top one's over here. Or almost 180, a third. And right here, the rings are lined right up. Huh. So that is a no good. Rings lined right up on the side skirt. So I think I'll take a photo of them. I'll go get it, and then I think what we'll do is some disassembly, and I want to put the rings back in here, wipe them out, put the rings back in here, and see what the gap is. And if we got a huge gap, like, I don't know I gotta look it up. But if we got a huge gap, that's where the oil went. So let me go take some pictures, and then, I don't know, I might finish disassembly all this and clean it up. I might like to see the crank journal there too. If we got a little bit of scratch in here, I want to see what the crank looks like. Can't really feel it, but you can see it, and I don't know if they allow you to polish them up at all. Might be able to wipe them out and it disappear, but there's a mark, little mark on it. So that's what I know. That's about it. We're gonna do a little reading, a little cleaning, and see what we come up with next. I'll bring you over here. We'll take a look at what we got. So, cylinder walls, no scratches. The crank, oily. Can I feel anything? I don't feel anything. Lots of sludge down, and I don't know if you call it sludge, but dark oil. And the next cylinder, no scratches. It's probably glazed, but maybe hone and rings and just clean it up, maybe. But there's some sludge. I want to get that all out of there, because you could probably change oil 5 times and still be in there. So I don't feel bad for taking this apart yet. I just, you know, inexperience, I'm a little worried. I didn't want to change the oil, throw it back together there and run it, and it smokes a little bit, and I never really know. You know, if I had bought this unit new, I would know what it was taken care of like. And so tell me your opinion there. What would you do? I think I want to clean it. I might finish tearing it all out. Probably it doesn't need a crankshaft. The rods, they look fine, but they don't use a bearing. It's just the rod and the cap, and that's what they look like. And you can't catch your finger in it. You can see it, but you're probably going to see it the first 2 seconds of running, you know. And that one I can sort of, I'm bearing right down, but this one's probably got a little more wear on number 2 than number 1. And I had a lot of oil in the cylinder, and rings are lined up on 1, but they're not quite lined up on 2. You can see the cam from here. The lobes look good, and we had a good lift on it, so I don't know if I want to tear all that apart or not. Absolutely no resistance on that. So, I don't know. I'll clean them up, and we'll see where we go from here. Well, we might as well keep going because I want to make this as easy to clean and light as I can to put it in a parts washer. So we'll pull the cam out. We'll leave the drive on here together, I think. Got little serge clips. Don't think I have to take them, do I? No, now we can see the tappets in the cam. All this stuff is, you know, I'm super nervous about what's the reason this thing's like it is. So, alright, so I guess that's compression release ball. Alright, yeah. Cam has no wear on it. I don't see a mark on it. Thing looks good, real good. My question, like I said, I gotta look up is why when you line the timing marks up, they don't correspond to the cylinder being at the top. So I'm gonna find out what that is. And then to tap it, probably ought to label them. I want to pull one out, see if there's any wear. I'm using the old sock on assembly. We'll have to get some towels or something. There's like no wear on them. I'm telling you, the engine's like new. But down in the pocket looks good. Everything looks good. I'm gonna pull the crank up out. I don't want the tappets to fall out. Let's there is one mark inside here. It looks like, I'll have to show you, but it looks like, let's see here. Like a little grinder or something hit it there. But it doesn't go all the way to the cylinder. I don't know if it's assembly or something maybe. But there's a tappet, so you can see. Everything's clean in there. I think I'm just going to put it in a parts washer, get it super clean, and then I'll blow it out, let her dry, probably hone the cylinders. It'd be better to have the crank on there to do that anyway. And I want to inspect the journal on the crank. So let's pull this out of here now. I left the bolt on there so I could turn it over before. It should come up through anyway. Alright, well, yeah. Wow. That bearing surface is nice. This one's nice. We got a little wear on the crank journal here. We got, you know, no mark, hardly a mark, and then a little more on this side. So up and back, you're going to get a little force on it, but to me that looks pretty good. I don't know if they allow you to do emery paper or anything like that on them. I'll check. And now I want to do the tappets. I'll put them in a baggie and label them. I probably won't be cleaning them much because they're all oily, so, you know. And well, maybe that's what they do at the factory on that that little grinding marks. I'll show you this. My hands are so oily, you know. I wear gloves, I can't hang on to stuff. Right there was that mark. But look at the bottom, all the way around that cylinder. And then almost all the way around on this cylinder. So I wonder if it's a casting slag they probably just grind off. Maybe it's something to do when they sleeve it, because these are sleeves. And I think I'm going to take a look at the heads again. I might pop the valves out to lap them this time if I'm going to do all this, and then make sure the seats are good, and the guides, I mean, are good in it. And the seats looked good before, but if we lap them, that's the best we can do on the heads without machine shop. And I'll label them before they get all mixed up, but they're probably the same exact size for all of them. And I want to get this sludge out of here, but there is no metal filing, no parts, no miscellaneous brakes, nothing, as I expected. But the price of this, is really nothing. I mean, they use RTB, they don't use a gasket, and we got a lower and an upper seal, crank seal, and if we buy just a gasket kit, we can get a head kit or head gasket kit for, you know, Amazon's got $17 or something, 15, it's 14, I forget how much. And if we go Kawasaki, which I probably will, you can spend a whole lot more, but I think probably the tolerances are better. So the next step is wash that, mark the tappets, wash that, take the rings off, label them, keep them separate. I think there's probably a difference in the top and middle ring here. The compression is probably, I don't see it, but one might have a little scraper on it. Taper, I'll see. And then they might be the same. And then we'll set them in there and do a ring end gap, possibly at the top of the cylinder and then down just a little bit, just to see what the gap is so I can record that. See, the old parts washer is doing its trick. It's going to be spotless in here. And I can get in around the fins, oil filter, all them hard to reach places without using a pressure washer, you know. I don't really want it solve water. I'd rather have it solvent. But we're going to get everything all cleaned up and see what we got to do for assembly here and get my parts ordered. Well, we got everything all washed up. Now it's kind of drying out. I got to get the air hose out here and blow everything off. There's a little bit of gasket surfaces to clean up. But see how nice the crankcase is now? And the big thing for this, like I said, is I wanted to inspect for any damages, scratches, wear. And I really don't see anything. And like I said, back on the crank, you can kind of see a mark, but you don't feel anything. And so, I guess I don't have to worry too much. Even on the pistons, they're not that bad. A little bit of scrub in there. But I want to measure them. So we're going to take the rings off next before I do much more. And we're going to set them in the cylinder and measure the ring end gap. And then probably what I'll do is take one piston and take the two top rings off. Maybe I'll leave the oil ring. And then I'll set the ring in the cylinder and I'll use the other piston to push it down to make it flush all the way around in the cylinder so that I know it's straight. And then we'll measure it. The rod bearing surface, there's a little bit of marks. You really can't feel anything. So I guess that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go about that next. I'm pretty happy with the way this cleaned up. You know, and obviously it cleans between the fins and everything. Everything's out. So we just got to clean it up before we do any type of reassembly anyway. But we'll do the ring end gap now. So we got the piston. We're going to start off with number 1. Dawson's home now. He might help me a little bit. I want him to learn this stuff. Remember, on cylinder 1, the rings were almost lined up. And that's where you're going to lose compression. And you can see the discoloration on the piston. Did you see this, Dawson? Look on this side of the piston. You see there's no darkness? You look on this side, and it's dark right there. I think the compression blew past. See the discoloration on the land here and the land there? So I think some compression was blown right down into the excessive blow-by we saw in the crankcase. So what you want to do is you figure out what side. There's an arrow on these somewhere. I don't see the arrow on this one. Do you see it, Dawson? I don't know. There's an arrow on the other one, I believe. Right? See this? There's an arrow, the direction. But you want to put the top ring, your compression ring, to the intake valve, and that's the coldest side. So you turn that one, and then you turn the other one about 180 to, say, the exhaust side, and then the oil ring is like it is. It's right there's one of them, and that's lined up on a wrist, the wrist pin, and then the other one is over here by the wrist pin. So it looks like the oil ring is correct, but the other two are not. And we want to peel these off now without breakage. And I want to set them in here. We'll measure the gap. Sometimes you can, without a tool, I don't have the tool, but look at this, Dawson. You just lift up the ring carefully, bring it on around, and it comes right out. See that? Mm-hmm. Now look at this more. We take the ring and we look at it closely to make sure it's the same on both sides. You see it? Does it look the same?
Yeah.
Because some engines have a little curve on them. You want to make sure you know what the top side is. And you want to squeeze it slightly and set it in the cylinder. You don't need any tools for that portion. And then we take the piston. That's a huge gap right now. Look how big that is. We're going to take the piston that we just took the ring off. I might have to take the second one off because I'm not sure how far I'd get the piston in there. See how it stops? And what that does is that gets that ring even all the way around. See how it pushed it in there? Mm-hmm. And to be sure, just pull it back out a little ways and do it again. It's got to push the ring in like that. Then look at the gap on that. That's huge. That's like a spark plug gap. That's where our oil consumption is, guys. I would say that's, whoa, where are we? I would say that's about
a little more than a 16th, isn't it? Maybe 15.
Yeah, but you measure in thousandths, and this is probably around 30 thousandths. Let me grab the feeler gauge. So I took off ring number 2, and now that's going to allow me to push this in all the way to this, which is roughly a ½ an inch. And when this bottom's, whoop, that goes all the way in, guys. It looks like the oil ring's not doing a whole lot, right? It isn't seized up, but it's not. Normally it stops you from pushing it in there. Well, let's slide this back out. See, we're learning. So I guess I can't be so crazy pushing that in there. Be gentle. And like that. When the oil ring touches, stop. Now, when the largest feeler gauge is kind of rough shape here, it's 24 thousandths. Check this out. Look in there, Dawson. What do you see? Can you see that?
Yeah, a lot of gap.
It does nothing. I think we're up to over 50 thousandths gap.
For sure.
Hey, let me
add a couple together.
I have to add a bunch. So what's this one? I might have to buy a different set. This one's seen better days. I've had this since I was like in school. a long time ago. Yes. Does that say 85 thousandths? No, this is 25, right? So let's take the 25. They're all out of order apparently. 25 and add it to, what is that one? I need a new set, guys. 25 and 14. We're going to add a few together and see what we got here. There's a few. Holy crap, guys. There's our oil consumption. That's your problem, lady. Right here we got 25, 13. What's that, Dawson? 25, 35, 38, and what's this one? 38 and 14. 38 and 10.
52.
Woo! We're way over 50 thousandths on ring end gap. Now, we're going to pull this one out. We're going to put in the second ring.
Looks the same.
They look the same, but let's see how it goes. We'll just start it. And this is cylinder 1, piston 1. I'm going to push it in sort of straight, stop at the oil ring. That squares it up.
Same thing.
Is it huge? Oh my. So we've got to put a whole pile of them together here to figure out what that gap. Let me see what we got here. Look at all that. Oh my, I've got... I got to figure out what that gap is, guys. It's hard to read this, so I might have to get this other. I got another set right here. That's the bet ones. Time for new ones, D. We got 8, 12. What's the biggest we got here? 20, 26, 25, and so that's 51, 61. That's 71 thousandths right there. Holy crap. No wonder it's smoking, guys. We're going to put a few more in here. Let's see. What's 71 and 19, Dawson?
90.
90. This is 90 thousandths. I got to hold them tight together. Wow. It's more than that.
It's 100?
It's 90 plus.
Let's see. Get a 10.
90 plus 18 probably won't fit, but here's 15.
105.
That's 105 thousandths. If I can keep them tight enough. I don't know. Oh my God. They'll still all fit with room. Look at that. See the gap?
Yeah.
You don't want to slam them in, but there's so much. Way over 100 thousandths gap, guys. That's ring 2. So I'm going to go back to ring 1. This is your compression ring. Holy moly, says Walter. Holy moly. I've never seen anything that big. I guess he's been overheated or something. Now, I'm going to use the same number here, pile of them. And that's tighter. All right, well, that's good. We'll take the 15 out. We ended up with what, 90?
Yep.
It's 90 thousandths. I'll keep them super tight here so I'm not making a mess. And it doesn't fit in there. Well, we'll take out... What do we take out? We'll take out an even number. We'll take out the 20. What's that leave us, Dawson? 70? What do we got now? We got 70 thousandths. At least. We probably got about 80 in there. 70 and... See if I can find a 10. 70, there's a 10. There's 80 thousandths. Right there. Let's keep them tight, square. Look at that. It's more than 80. Fits in easy. I think it calls for, I'm guessing without looking it up, probably around 4 thousandths. Could be as high as 6. I don't know. I'll look it up. Don't quote me on that, but it's got to be like a business card, I might guess. And it's a huge gap, which is going to allow a lot of compression to go down in there, and it's going to allow a lot of oil to come back out. So I think I'm going to keep these labeled, keep them aside, do cylinder 2, flop it around, do cylinder 2, and record these numbers. Well, we got the same thing on this one as cylinder 2. I got the compression ring. I've got 80 thousandths in here. And see if I can get a good view. It fits in there like no problem with play. Look at that. No tension at all. It's about 90 thousandths. And then I looked up, I started doing some scribbling here. The spec is supposed to be 0.6 millimeter or 24 thousandths. Okay, so we are almost 4 times larger than we're supposed to be. The bore is a 301 I got, 74. It's supposed to be a 76 millimeter, so it's about a 3-inch piston, and then the ring end gap on cylinder 1 was 85, and ring 2 was 105 thousandths. So now I'm going to record cylinder 2. I'm going to pop that ring off, do the same thing. And I think that's all it is, guys. We got some wear on the skirts a little bit. You can almost feel it. Probably could get by. But I could get a master kit. It would come with a new crankshaft. I'd get new rod bearings, new pistons and rings and all that. I don't think we need that. The crank looks really good. The cam looks really good. Everything looks really good, basically. It looks like, my guess, they didn't change the oil. Or it overheated and it wears the rings down fast. The cylinder walls look great. So we need to deglaze them and get a nice crosshatch in there. And then I guess that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I'm going to order, is I'm going to order a kit. These here, these marks, I can see them. I can almost feel them. So my guess is I probably don't need them. I mean, there's always a film of oil in there. I want to clean them up a little better. I haven't done anything but throw it in the parts washer. And then I don't know if you can use 1,000 grit paper or not. I think I got some to see if they'll dress up a little bit. I don't want to use anything coarse. If I bought the master kit, I think they're over $500. If I bought the rebuild kit, they range from $200 and up. And you can get aftermarket stuff cheap, but I don't think I'm gonna on this one. I think I'll go Kawasaki. I think the head gaskets are better, the seals are better, and then I don't think I'd want an aftermarket piston if I went with them. And I measured these, and they're 76 millimeter, and then I measured the skirts, and they're 78 millimeters. So it's lost about a millimeter per side on the skirt, but they might be a tapered piston, and I can't find any literature on it. But you can kind of see the wear right there, that wear mark. And so I think they're fine. I'm sure my old Craftsman out there has got some really nasty stuff with all them hours on it. That thing is probably 1,200 hours on it. But this is 400 hours. I think I'll probably be putting it back together like this and just get the basic kit. And that way I'll leave the connecting rods. I'll leave the pistons. We'll get rings. And I think that's what I'll do. But I'll compare prices. I might get the pistons with it and keep the connecting rods. So we'll see what we get here in the kits. I got to look them up. So stay tuned. My next step, like I said, is I'm going to finish cleaning these up, air dry them, all that, check the surfaces, get all my specs wrote down, maybe print off a sheet, and get the tools around to hone the cylinders. And we'll be ordering the parts, obviously, and then installing new seals and assembling all these, put the rings in the proper order this time, and direction. And stay tuned, guys. We'll see you soon. I need to get this going.